Good morning, and we are live. This is Normalize Breastfeeding Live, and I'm your host, Vanessa Simmons. And today we have a wonderful opportunity to follow and speak with an amazing woman, Sherry Payne. She's actually an IBCLC who is walking across the state of Missouri, and she is raising awareness for Black infant mortality. I'm not sure if you're aware, but our Black babies are dying at twice the rate of their white counterparts, and she is going to be giving us much more information about that and helping us to understand how we can help our babies to survive and also to thrive. So I just want to say thank you for joining us today. Sherry, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
And
It's a beautiful morning here in Missouri.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell us a little bit about how you got started, and I will read your bio as well. But just tell me a little bit about how you got started with this actual walk and this actual event.
Well, I did my first walk last year, and my goal was to walk across the state of Missouri, and I made it halfway across. And as I went, I talked to legislators, educators, hospital administrators, clinicians, so all those folks who are stakeholders in this. So I'm a nurse educator by trade. I spent my early career as a labor and delivery nurse, and now I teach labor and delivery, and I'm also a midwife student. So I'm intimately involved in maternal infant health, and I discovered when I was doing academic work that the stats were really bad for Black infants, and that infants in our community are much less likely to reach their first birthday than infants from other racial categories. So this became a real passion of mine, and I decided that I wanted to do something about it. I was really frustrated. It seemed that this problem wasn't unknown in the academic world or the clinical world. People knew about it. There's just folks just weren't doing a whole lot about it. And so I wanted to do something really symbolic and make a stand. And that's when I decided I'm going to walk across the state and talk about this issue. So I made it about halfway, and this year our goal wasn't near as lofty. We're walking a total of 20 miles from Columbia, Missouri to Jefferson City, Missouri. We walked 10 miles yesterday, and we're walking another 10 miles today. And again, we're doing interviews such as this. We had radio shows, interviews, newspaper stories. So anything that we can do to get the word out. And of course, it's also a fundraiser for Uzazi Village, so we can keep up the good work that we're doing to promote breastfeeding among African American women and to improve birth outcomes. So we are busy doing a lot of work on a lot of fronts, but it's all to improve things for moms and babies in the African American community, who often end up getting the short end of the stick and not having the resources they need to have healthy pregnancies and therefore healthy babies.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that introduction to this event. So I'm going to take everyone over to your website. You can check out Sherry's work on uzazivillage.com. She is a MSN, RN, CNE, and IBCLC. She presents nationally on topics related to perinatal health disparities, infant mortality, and lactation professions. She is a master's prepared nurse educator and lactation consultant, and she's also the executive director of Uzazi Village in Kansas City, Missouri. And so she also is the creator of the Sister Doula program and the Chocolate Milk Cafe. She spearheaded the Lactation Consultant Mentorship Program to increase the numbers of lactation consultants of color. And Miss Payne actually she addresses the need for culturally congruent care when working with communities of color. Miss Payne resides in Overland Park, Kansas, with her husband and 9 children, 4 of whom live at home. And she actually is doing amazing work. I had the opportunity to meet her for the first time this past year at the California Breastfeeding Coalition Summit, and it was definitely a wonderful experience. We had a chance to chat about my work normalizing breastfeeding while I'm, working with my baby. It was kind of ironic that they made the World Breastfeeding Week topic this year, breastfeeding and work, because it was like my life for the last 20 months. It's just like, okay, well, I'm going to bring my baby because I'm breastfeeding, and I'm working, but it'll be fine because we're breastfeeding. So I thought it was very cool that we had a chance to kind of talk about that. And so I'm going to turn the screen sharing off here. And so I just wanted to say that I'm really excited about the work that you're doing, Sherry. And so let's talk a little bit about the rates.
I would love to interview. Talk about the rates.
Let's talk about the rates. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about.
So when you look at the national data, African American women are much less likely to be breastfeeding. So their numbers are significantly lower than their Caucasian peers. So, and even though breastfeeding rates have gone up across the board in the U.S. amongst all women, there's still a gap, a persistent gap between black and white women. And the reason that this is important is because breastfeeding, she's with us. Breastfeeding is really connected to infant vitality and survival. So a lot of folks don't get that, but there is a direct correlation between infant health and breastfeeding.
Exactly.
And most people realize that breastfeeding is good for babies, but they don't really take it a step further and think about it being really tied to their survival.
Yes.
And it really is. So breastfeeding, it really is quite amazing. It really sets the newborn up for a lifetime of good health, especially their immune system, which is what's going to protect them. And so infants who aren't breastfed, who don't have the benefit of their mother's milk, are really immunocompromised and are going to have a much harder time sustaining themselves and fighting off pathogens. But it goes far beyond the immune system. Breastfeeding is really just Mother Nature's way of ensuring the optimal health of our infants. It's going to set them up for good brain development, even good speech development, and it's protective long into adulthood. People think about the benefits of breastfeeding just for infancy, but they last throughout infancy and childhood and are even protective for certainly childhood cancers, but adult onset cancers and disorders too. So it's really the way nature intended that we nourish and nurture our infants is through breast milk. And babies that don't get that are at a disadvantage.
Most definitely. You know, it's like you hear those stories of like babies who are not showing very good vital signs and then they're put skin to skin with mom and all of a sudden they're just, awakened almost. And it's something that is just, I mean, it's so normal and so natural if you think about how birth was before we had all of these institutionalized settings. We had the ability to just have our baby on us directly immediately after birth. It was never an issue. Now, yes, the mom could have been having a hemorrhage, she could have been having all kinds of other complications, but there was never a question of having baby immediately with mom. And so I think that when you consider how birth is set up, especially in the hospital system now, where moms are having to almost fight and scream to make sure that they get that immediate skin to skin contact that can help initiate breastfeeding. It can help initiate the bond. It can help the baby to know right away who mother is. All the things that are going to lead to the baby having the opportunity to thrive, just the opportunity. Those things can be heightened by just having that immediate skin to skin contact. So it is really, really important. So
That is true, and I'm actually encouraged by that. I see in our area that immediate skin to skin is becoming the norm. So women's voices are being heard on this, and change is happening slowly but surely. But I see most of the hospitals in our city adopting first hour policies where mom and
yes,
baby remain together. And you're right, it is critical that mom and baby remain together if they can. They should only be separated for medical reasons. And that is essential for both the baby and the mother's emotional well-being too.
oh,
So,
definitely. Definitely. I think, I mean, I've only heard stories. Luckily, myself, I've had three wonderful, wonderful birth situations with midwives, and they've all been natural, and I haven't had to have any interventions. So I've been able to experience that immediate skin to skin contact with all three of my children. I'm very grateful. And so when I do hear the stories, I mean, it's just like I couldn't imagine birth without skin to skin contact. It's like, it's just part of birth. It's just as critical as delivering your placenta, like to me, that in my mind, it's just the same amount of importance and significance. Um, so tell me a little bit about your proclamation. I'm so excited about this. I didn't even know that you had submitted for one, and then I saw you post it, and I was like, yes! I'm so excited that you were able to get a proclamation done for this event.
well, I wish I had them to show you. You want to see if one is in the back
I
seat
can
of the
bring it
car
up.
and
I
one's
can
in the
bring it up
trunk.
on the screen. I can
We
bring it
have a
up on the screen.
couple. We have a
Oh,
couple.
okay.
We got a proclamation from the mayor of Kansas City, and then a second one from the mayor of St. Louis.
Okay.
So we're really pleased to get that recognition from both sides of our state,
Awesome.
recognizing the other one's in the trunk, but I don't know. That's probably locked. But yeah, the thank you. But the other is from St. Louis. But I love the wording on this proclamation. So let me see if I can show it. There it is. So there's the one from Kansas City. The ones from St. Louis is a little fancier looking.
Okay. Did
Uh,
it come with like a nice
but I,
gold stamp?
it did. It came with a little blue ribbon on it and a nice
Oh,
little gold
wonderful.
scroll. It was really
Oh,
fancy. But I'll
wonderful.
read this one to you from Kansas City.
Yes.
It's lots of whereases in here. Just quality is an important word indicator that is word linked to income, infant mortality, social support, cultural barriers, and access to quality care. And whereas the national infant mortality rate is 6.14 infant deaths per thousand live births, The African American infant mortality rate is 11.64 deaths per
Mm.
1,000 births. African Americans are 2.4 times likely to die as infants compared to non-Hispanic white infants. And whereas in Missouri, the African American infant mortality rate is 15 deaths per 1,000 live births, more than double the white infant mortality rate of 6.2 deaths per 1,000 live births. So it's bad enough nationally, but it's even worse here in Missouri. And whereas the main reason for this racial disparity in infant mortality is that African American mothers are twice as likely as white mothers to deliver very low birth weight newborns. Major risk factors for this include the maternal genitourinary infections, previous preterm births, and stress. And whereas lifelong conditions of high stress and limited support may influence poor nutrition and physical response that puts fetuses at risk, chronic stress due to the effects of generational systemic racism from many factors, including demanding jobs, lack of control at the workplace, single parenthood, and financial worries, all problems experienced disproportionately by women of color. And whereas the month of September has been designated Infant Mortality Awareness Month to raise public awareness and offer education about reducing infant mortality, and whereas the City of Kansas City is committed to improving the health and well-being of infants by raising awareness about the importance of infant mortality. Now, therefore, I, Sylvester James, Mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, on behalf of the citizens of this great city and the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of September as Infant Mortality Awareness Month in Kansas City, Missouri.
Wonderful. This is wonderful. And so this is why you walk, correct?
That is why I walk,
This is why you walk.
to bring that awareness to this issue, because I call it a silent epidemic,
Right.
because so many people aren't aware of the disparities in the African American population. And when an African American family loses an infant, they just think that it's an isolated tragedy that just happened to them. They don't see it as part of a national trend, and it really is.
Right, right. And so, you know, this walk, when you walked last year, because I think it was last year, it took me, this is how I actually found out about you. This is how I like learned about who is Sherry Payne. Last year, I was actually trying to watch the hangout that you were going to be on with Gina Kirby. And I
Yes.
think there was some technical difficulties, and so we didn't get you on.
We
Um,
rescheduled it. We finally did it, but we rescheduled it a couple of times.
right, right. And so this is how I found out about you. I mean, you weren't on my radar in any way, shape, or form beforehand, and I found out about this event through Gina Kirby. She's a mutual friend of mine and someone else. And so when she posted about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to, see about this. And so I did, and I was really grateful because I didn't have any connections with you before, and then now knowing the work that you're doing, I was like, this is amazing, and I wanted to get involved somehow, some way, and so I actually did make a donation a couple of days ago as well. I was like, oh, I have the opportunity to do it right now, so I'll go ahead and do it. And so
Well,
I'm
thank you for that. Thank you very much. Every donation is truly valued and appreciated, so thank you.
no, definitely, definitely, and I try my best to donate when I can and when I have it. And so, I know what that's like too, trying to raise funds for a cause. It's like it can be very difficult, and you just have to kind of keep, chugging along. But I think this is awesome. So, did you walk by yourself this year,
Well, I
or
started out, and last year I walked alone most of the time. I ended up uh, walking, I believe, over 7 days, 7 or 8 days. Um, and most of that time was alone, and it was amazing. So this time I started out in the morning. Uh, I walked the first 5 miles in solitude, which I'm a person who really values silence and solitude, uh,
Wonderful.
and sort of have a rich internal life of the mind. So I like being
Right.
alone with my own thoughts. And then I was joined in the afternoon by Brittany Campbell, who drove down from St. Louis to join me. So Columbia and Jefferson City are right in the middle of Missouri.
Okay.
Kansas City is on the western border, and St. Louis is on the eastern border. So we sort of met in the middle. And Brittany
Awesome.
and I had a wonderful, enjoyable walk talking about birth and breastfeeding and maternal infant health issues all along the way. So it really is enjoyable to walk with someone else and have conversation the entire time. It just sort of makes the beautiful scenery fly right by. And so we did 5 miles. I did 5 miles alone in the morning, and we did 5 miles together in the afternoon. And today we'll do the same. We'll do 5 miles before breakfast, I mean, before lunch, and 5 miles after lunch. And then we've just been joined by a third walker who
Oh,
actually just
wonderful.
drove down from Wisconsin to be with us, a midwife. Uh, from Wisconsin. So she's just arrived, and after we get off of our Google Hangout here and have a little bit of breakfast, then we're gonna hit the trail again.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I don't want to keep you if you guys are going to miss breakfast. Make sure that we get you off in time to get your. You need your
Well, yeah,
meal.
we
You
don't
need
want to
your
miss
meal so you guys can
that.
walk. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to keep you too long. But I do want to go ahead and introduce Brittany Campbell and bring her on. So I'm going to have you mute
Okay.
your sound, Sherry. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Wonderful talking with you. Good morning, Brittany. You can go ahead and unmute yourself now.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I am good. I am good. And so it's wonderful to have you and wonderful to see that you've been able to walk with Sherry. Are you going to continue walking with her today as well?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I'm just so excited and honored, and I'm learning so much from Sherry, and she's just a wealth of wisdom and knowledge, and a lot of good laughs. But I will walk 10 miles with her today and share dinner and lunch, and make it back home to St. Louis to share some of the great things that I've learned on this journey with Sherry.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell me a little bit about your work in the Black community and how you're working to try and help these rates with Black infant mortality. I'm also going to pull up your website as well if you want to talk about that too.
Yeah, well, great. Well, I'll just start by saying that me myself, I experienced difficulties based on my race and my age. When I gave birth to my first son, I was a teenage mother, the age of 14, um, and was treated very unfairly in the hospital. And it didn't take me long to realize a few years later as a teenager that due to my race and the type of insurance that I had and my lack of education of my body, um, that was the reason why I faced those difficulties at the hospital. So I set out to educate myself and to learn more about myself as a woman and about the process of pregnancy and childbirth and breastfeeding, so that next time I gave birth, I would be able to demand quality care and respect. And so I went onto the path of becoming a doula and learning more about traditional midwifery. Um, I did experience a cesarean with my first son and with my second son. And by that time, I began to educate myself. And by my third birth, which is my son is now 3 years old, I was able to have a very successful home birth. And so I then decided to travel to Ghana, West Africa. I was invited by Sabaye. It's an organization that helps to empower Black families in St. Louis to travel to Ghana, West Africa for a midwifery workshop that was led by Sandra Abdullah. I also call her Mama Salama, but she was there working with the village midwives and just teaching them some skills on assisting mothers because their maternal mortality rate was so high due to things such as hemorrhaging or breech babies. And so we worked with the village midwives for a little bit over a week, and I was there as her assistant. And so I learned more about being a traditional midwife and being a traditional doula while in Ghana. And I returned back home for a couple months and went back and stayed for 4 months to learn a little bit more. And I came back seriously armed to help educate my community and to help educate teenage mothers and mothers who are in domestic violence situations or relationships and they're expecting. So right now, currently what I do in my community, I'm a resident of Ferguson, Missouri, and Ferguson is a part of North County, St. Louis, and there's like a pocket of no education for those women. And that particular community is 51% African American. And so I host a natural childbirth education circle bi-monthly where we have a panel of midwives and doulas and birth educators of color. And it's an exclusive circle for women of color. And we just share educational tips on how to be empowered in your birth, how to learn more about the process, how to have the birth that you want, and how to increase their chances of successful breastfeeding, and so that we can lower those rates of infant mortality and also maternal mortality in our Black community. So that's a little bit about me. So currently I'm a traditional doula. I'm also a COC, and I'm a student midwife. I attend the Midwives College of Utah, and I apprentice with the O'Fallon Birth and Wellness Center. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. So here's your website. I'm going to share with everyone your website. And so just tell me a little bit about how you got started in regards to your doula work.
Great. So I got started pretty much because I wanted to increase the support that women receive. I noticed that in my own birth, my two births with my children, I didn't have the support whenever the hospital staff would communicate to me. You know, I didn't have anyone to turn to that to ask them, you know, what does that mean and how should I move forward? And so I was left alone pretty much. And so I set out on the path to learn more about being a doula. I first inquired at ICTC to become a doula and wasn't able to attend the course at that time. So I moved forward to train in St. Louis and as a doula, and I also learned while I was in Ghana the traditional aspects of being a doula, and that was in 2013, the summer, and I learned there with village midwives and also other birth professionals that were in the area in Ghana. So
I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually Ghanaian American.
Really? So awesome. You know,
I was sitting here like, what? Because, okay, the way that the tradition works in Ghana, hold on, let me stop sharing my screen here. So the way that the tradition works in Ghana is that the male, it's always usually the first son, but the males get like all priority, right? Okay, so my brother has been back home twice now, and I have not been to Ghana. Neither has my sister, and it's a heartbreaking situation. My parents, you know, I'm sure they wanted to take us, but with, you know, having a large, I mean, not large family, but 5 people trying to go to Ghana is not a cheap endeavor by any means. And so it's never been a priority in the sense of like my parents making sure that me, and my little sister go. So that has been like my life mission. I'm like, anyhow, any way that I can get to Ghana through my work that I'm doing now, because I really want to go and document. I want to document the birth situation. I want to document the midwifery situation. I want to document the breastfeeding situation there because it's a part of me. And my mother and her culture, you know, she exposed me to it in the sense that birthing naturally and breastfeeding is just what you do. You don't do anything else. I mean, she didn't have any like natural home births, but in the hospital she did have natural births with me and my sister. Unfortunately, with my older brother, she had a spinal tap, but she actually she breastfed all of us, even my brother with his lazy latch that she always talks about. She breastfed him as well. And so every time I hear about young women going over to Ghana, I'm like, gosh, like I need to get involved with like a program or something that can help me and
Yeah.
my family get there, because I really want to go with my immediate family now, my husband and my 3 children, just to give us all that experience, and have that kind of foundation kind of established. We grew up without any family here in San Diego, California, and it was difficult, not having cousins and relatives and people that you can go to. I never saw pregnant, women in my own family or breast. Well, actually, I did witness one pregnant relative, but it was because we traveled to London, where most majority of my family is. But as far as breastfeeding in my own family, I never witnessed it. I only saw pictures of my mother breastfeeding us. But I never witnessed breastfeeding actually among the African American community until I was like 21, 22. It was a friend of mine, and she's the same, not this woman, but she's the same woman that helped me start this campaign. She modeled for me for this normalized breastfeeding campaign. So I think it's just awesome that you had the opportunity to go, and we'll definitely chat more after the hangout about that. We have to connect and have an opportunity to talk about that, because I'd love to try and see what I can do to get out there.
Yes, and so I have quite a few resources, and I would just say, lastly, that definitely possibly try to contact Sandra Abdullah Salama. She is there. I know she works with a few birthing clinics, and so
Okay.
she would be a definite go-to for that. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's exciting. So thank you so much for sharing. So Sherry, I want to bring you back on. I'm going to have you mute your sound. Brittany, thank you so much for sharing all about what you're doing to help. And I'm excited about you walking with Sherry again today. So Sherry, is there any final words, anything that you really want to get out there before we sign off? I just wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to share any final thoughts.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. I really do want to say that I truly do honor and appreciate the work that you're doing
Oh, thank
around
you.
breastfeeding promotion. I think it's really important work, and you're doing your part to get the word out there and to have positive impact in our communities across the country. So thank you for your work in normalizing breastfeeding. That's absolutely what we have to do. So the name of your organization summarizes it perfectly. We need to reclaim this as our normal. And I say reclaim it because we once had it. And that to some extent it was taken from us, that we were deceived, and that we thought something else was better, and a lot of us still hold that belief, and it's just not true. We need to reclaim our heritage, which is breastfeeding our babies. So thank you for your work. And I just want to say thanks for all of those around the country who support the work of Uzazi Village, who support my efforts to bring greater awareness to our health disparities. The system is quite content to see us suffer and die, and there's not a whole lot of effort put into abating and stemming the tide of these health disparities. And so the individual work that we all do in our individual communities is really important and really significant. So I want to encourage those who are out there working on the front lines of maternal infant health and either birth work or breastfeeding work or any kind of community-based efforts. Keep plugging away. It all makes a difference, and the work we do in our individual communities is very important. And part of my work, of course, is also to get the word out nationwide and to bring greater awareness. So thank you for this Google Hangout this morning to help us accomplish that. The
Definitely.
innkeeper's cooking up my omelet now, so I'm going to have my protein breakfast, and we're going to hit the trail before
Awesome.
the morning gets too far much beyond this. So
Okay,
thank you so much.
wonderful.
Thanks for
Thank you
having us
so much
on.
for thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. And you guys have a wonderful walk today, and I'll be following you on your event.
All right, thank you.
All right, you're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye-bye.